This is Clayton's Beach Bar. This is a big deal for Texas college kids. Every spring they come by the truckloads. They say 25,000 drunk 20-year-olds come here every single day. Spring break became a thing here in South Padre Island in the mid-'80s. After all, you can still drink on the beach here. You can't do that in a lot of the Gulf. I think I can still smell the booze in the sand. Here's what it looks like when it's in full drunk mode. Wish I could have seen that. Now, it wasn't until day 8 on my great Texas road trip before we finally made it to see the water. And what a sight it is! That's the Gulf of Mexico. This is the first day we've seen the sun since that one afternoon in San Antonio. It felt like a long time ago at this point. So we're going to begin right here at the end of Texas and take a week to drive all the way to Galveston. Now, I'd never been to this part of the country before, and I had so many questions that needed answers. Now it's time to get some sand in my saddle and find some dames that like whiskey. The famous Texas coast. It's amazing, isn't it? Everything that vacationers and second home owners dream about. A total escape from the rest of the state and the entire country. Okay, it's fall, so there aren't that many people here. And it kind of looks like Florida. But hey, we're lucky. We get to see all this without all the tourists. We're in South Padre Island on the first day of November. If you look at a map of Texas, where we are is right here. We're on a long skinny island that's 34 miles tall, and South Padre Island is the southern 5-mile section of the thing. Most of the island's uninhabited. It's the most southern place on the Texas coast that you can get. After this, it's Mexico land. I spent 2 days here looking at the most famous beach in Texas. The locals call this place SPI. It's sort of like a mini Panama City way out in the middle of nowhere. There's only 2,000 permanent residents that live here, but that doubles in the winter. It's a lot of retired people, some government employees, some teachers, and border patrol, and a bunch of SpaceX workers. That's because they launch rockets on another beach nearby. We'll see it in a little bit. It can feel very locals only for much of the year here. It's not really that exciting. There's a lot to do. There's fishing and birding and drinking. You can do all the resort stuff you'd find at a popular beach town, like kiteboarding, and parasailing, and drinking. This part of Texas used to be part of Spain, and then Mexico, and then was inside the Republic of Texas. Those were the good old days. A lot of this island was ranches in the early 1900s. And then they realized, hey, there's a lot of oil under here, so they dug all that up in the 1950s. That brought in a lot of rich people, so the place blew up. And then when they invented air conditioning, the place really blew up. And people with money have been coming down here ever since JFK was in office. I hear a lot of the old money here wasn't just oil money, it was drug money too. Uh-oh. You probably know South Padre Island is a place for parties. It is that, but only for some of the year. For about 7 months or so, it's just this quiet, sleepy beach town. As you can see, the place looks like it's booming now, but in the 80s, a lot of this was pretty desolate. I guess you can say the drunk kids added a big spark to the place. Most of the time, it's really safe here. Except for spring. Spring here is a real racket. The only reason this place has a high crime ranking is because of all the crime stats that rack up in the springtime. I think people here are like, hey, look, we love when you come down here and spend your money. Have fun. But do you have to fight and trash the place every year? They call themselves the only tropical paradise in Texas. I don't know if I'd call this a tropical or a paradise, but it is nice. So where we are right now is called Bolsa Chica Beach. It's on the south end of the island. This beach has been called one of the top 10 beaches in the U.S. by many publications you've heard of. And people say, this is the only nice beach in the whole state of Texas. Now, I had never been to the Texas coast before, but I had heard some bad things. I heard the Gulf Coast here was all nasty water, gross. But not this. This is actually pretty nice. The beach here is really wide and clean and chill. Just looks like a normal East Coast beach to me. The sand here is kind of thin and muddy at the same time. Very sticky. Not nearly as nice as the sand I've seen on other adventures on the Gulf. Like Panama City over in Florida, their sand's way better. The water here was still sort of warm. And the shelf was shallow. Nice beach, especially for Texas. I can see why it's so highly sought after. Ew, it feels good. Not too cold. It's clear that parking is a premium. Look at that lack of parking at the beach, people. And this is neat. So you can stand right here at the far end of SPI, and you look across a little bay, and you can see SpaceX's launch pad. Right there. That's one of many places where they launch their rockets. One time, not too long ago, they sent a rocket up from there, and it blew up in only 2 minutes, right out there above the ocean. That would have been cool to have on video, huh? Now, back when I was homesteading in the Panhandle, all of this was prairie meets the sea. And now, hell, they got rockets going to Pluto one day.
This beach used to be a big drop-off point for drugs being smuggled into the country.
Well, hell, Mappy. I wonder if there's still any coke in that sand. There's two ends of this island. We're on the south side. Now, if you drive up to the north end of the island, it gets really isolated and sand dune-y fast. It's so desolate up here that the sand dunes creep into the roadway all the time. Sometimes you gotta come to a complete stop. The whole island is called Padre Island, and just about all of it's uninhabited. I'm glad they keep it like this up here. All desolate like. That means less you and me up here. And that's a good thing. The northern end of the island looks like the other beach at the south end of the island. Just less people. And you can drive on the beach up here. That's cool. It is nice to feel all alone out along the water. That certainly is true. If you drive around the island, almost all the neighborhoods look the same. Just your standard beach fare. Everything's really nice. And because the island's so skinny, seems like everyone's 2 blocks from the water. I was really surprised to see that the average cost of a house here is $450,000 when I was in town. I think the average price also includes all the condos. I'm guessing that almost everybody here is a second homeowner or a local because there has to be close to 0 jobs here that would pay well enough that a family could afford to move here. The homes here are nice looking. Look like any other beach community I've seen. Everything's very nice and clean. You can tell people here have pride in their hoods and in their homes. You don't see that a lot in America anymore, do you? Just get on. I was in South Padre Island for 2 days, so I did as much as I could. There's not a lot to do here that isn't drinking along the water, which is fine, but I had just began the 2nd week of the trip, so I was a little bit tuckered. I showed you Clayton's already. That's the first place we actually went to when we got here. Mostly just because the clouds finally went away. We were just glad it was nice out. I was like, there's some sun. Look at that parking lot. You can tell they're used to hosting big crowds here. Of course, there's rules here. Can't have 5,000 drunk kids around for weeks at a time and not lay down the law. And what a place. Look at that. My kind of place.
Oh my God, look how big it is.
This place comes as advertised. Tons of room to get after it. And a big stage too. Their drink menu proves they don't mess around. Look at all that booze and sugar. I went with the painkiller and the fish tacos. Not a bad way to spend my first afternoon at the Texas coast.
Okay.
We even made friends with the bar cat. I named him Padre, even though he's only 1. He likes the fries, but loved the fish. Before we left, I wound up getting one more Lone Star done up right. The Clayton's way. In case you're curious, here's what the Clayton's Beach Bar bathroom looks like. Very impressive. Very impressive indeed. Most of the island isn't that beachy. A lot of the places here are bayside bars and restaurants. Super cool on the water. Very nice and well done. Just super clean and quiet. Not a single bum or piece of trash in sight. Nice job, South Padre Island. Nightlife, South Padre Island, Texas. First night we went to a joint called Louie's by the water. Super neat view. Just look at how big this place is. Like multiple bars and stages big. But they still pack them in. It is a scene out here in the spring and summer. Again, just this massive, and this is just one patio that is just packed in the summertime. Welp, my first ever sunset in Texas. She sure is a beaut, isn't she? South Padre Island scene. And boy, is it a scene in the summer. I do love the lack of people though, I'm not gonna lie. For dinner, I sprang for Louie's famous big bowl of fish. Now this thing is terribly named. It's a seared piece of mahi over some taters. And it was good. I don't think I've had a bad meal on this trip to this point, except that nasty Tex-Mex in San Antone. Damn it. Louie's is cool, very beachy inside. Chill, just the way I like it. The night we were here must have been old timers night. Or maybe that's every night in the off season. The bartender told me that during peak season, the old-time locals have their own room set aside just for them. They have to show their driver's license to prove they live on the island, and they can't even bring a guest. And that's what it's like here in spring and summer. Maybe I should come back and show you. My second night on the island was much more tame. Some tacos on the beach and some drinks at one of the fancy hotels in town. They had a band from Seattle here. They were pretty good.
Yeah. Ooh, I can tell we got lovers in the house. I don't care if it's like 8 or 9 of them. We're all still lovers, right? Yeah.
And that dude's shoes. Man. While we were in town, we stayed at the fabulous Sandy Feet's Sandbox Inn, just 2 blocks from the ocean. We had our own space for the first time in a week. And look at that bed. So high. So the monsters don't get you, I guess. And check it out. The woman who owns the place is a sandcastle architect. Yes, she travels the world building sandcastles. On our first night, we toured a big sandcastle display that she built herself. I think. Well, she probably had help. But she designed all this. It's very lovely. I think there has to be some sort of glue or something to prevent all this from becoming a big pile again. But I don't know what they use. And look, some of them even have lights. An Elon Musk themed sandcastle, everyone. That's because of that SpaceX facility nearby. And here she is, the owner of Sandy Feet and the world's best sandcastle architect. Her name's Lucinda. She's a South Padre Island local. Been here forever.
It does attract a wide variety of types. You know, the real estate types, the surfer types, there's a lot of drinking that goes on here. Partying, that's what people come here to do. And we embrace that as well. So it's hard to stay focused sometimes because people come here to have fun. And it's real easy to jump in there and have fun with them, you know, instead of doing what you're supposed to do. So.
On our last morning in South Padre, I got up early so I could record my first ever Texas sunrise. And no more words are needed for this part. So, Lucinda, how has South Padre Island changed since you've been here over the years?
Well, it's changed a lot. It's a lot more commercial. It used to be a lot more funky and I don't know. No. But I still love it here. They're going to drag me out by my boot heels. I like it.
Do people like the fact that it's getting more touristy, busy, or do they like it?
Well, it's always the ancient, do we want to make money or do we want to live a wonderful life? And, you got to find a balance. So that's the constant struggle here. You have the retirees who want it to stay quiet, and you have the people who, look here and see a chance to make a living. And that's what I did, I built sandcastles for a living, and it's been a good run.
What is it like to live on South Padre Island?
Well, it's not for everybody, thank goodness. We don't want everybody living here. But it does attract a wide variety of types. The real estate types, the surfer types. There's a lot of drinking that goes on here, partying. That's what people come here to do, and we embrace that as well. So it's hard to stay focused sometimes because people come here to have fun. And it's real easy to jump in there and have fun with them, instead of doing what you're supposed to do. So that's gotten easier as I've gotten older. I don't feel the inclination to go out party all the time anymore. But I certainly went through that phase.
You've been around the world. How would you compare South Padre Island to people that have never been here? What's it like the most if you were going to try to compare it to somewhere that most people have been to or heard of?
That's a tough one. It's not really like any other place. I've been to beaches. My favorite beach maybe was Tasmania, but I would see some carryover. I judge a beach by its sand, and we got really good sand here, and other places don't. Their sand's not as good. So, there's that. But also weather-wise, it's warm here all the time, except for today. It's not warm. But it's way warmer than Michigan. Yeah, I like it here.
What's the difference between South Padre Island and like the rest of the Texas coast?
Well, the rest of the Texas coast is more industrialized. There's a lot of plants and oil-related things, and that's coming here. We're getting it here. The LNG is coming. We fought it. We're still trying to fight it, but you got enough money. How do you fight that? You can't. So you just gotta hope that, they say that this particular LNG plant is the cleanest one that has ever been made, and you hope that's the case, but it's hard to trust them.
Is the island here a place that families could afford to move to, or what's the cost of living here if somebody was gonna? Is it even realistic for a family to move here and try to make a living, or is this more of a touristy second home kind of place?
It is, but we're trying to be something more than that. Property value just went through the roof in the last couple of years. So that's a problem, is finding affordable housing here. You got people like me, I got a spare place while I'm trying to do short-term rentals because that's the only way I can afford the taxes. So it's sort of a vicious cycle, but it is, I think, a great place for families. And I think a lot of people would agree. I didn't have a family myself, but I work with a lot of kids and school groups and art projects for young people. And I think this would be a dream place to grow up, as a child. I would have loved to have grown up here. But it's hard. It's hard for a family. The only industry here is tourism. So if you can't figure out a way to serve tourists, then you better not need to make an income.
Mm-hmm. Would it be fair for me to assume that for 5 months a year it's bonkers here, and then for the other 7 months it's sort of sleepy island life like what we're seeing here today?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Winter Texans do inject a lot of life in January and February. There's Louise told me, the manager there, that the young people, spring breakers, don't really drink much anymore. It's the old people. They're the ones that really keep the bars jumping. So, we welcome those Winter Texans. Come on down. Let's have a party.
Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. And I can also help you find your new house, too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home, too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.